If he told you that one of the smallest, quietest nations in Asia just forced the Pentagon to rewrite part of its strategy playbook, would you believe it? If he told you that analysts in Washington are sitting with widened eyes, staring at satellite photos, asking, how did we miss this? Would it sound like fiction? Well, in today's video, stay locked in, because what I am about to show you is not just surprising, it is rewriting what we thought we knew about global power balance. And it all begins not in a major superpower, not in a trillion-dollar defense giant, but in a country people barely talk about, Laos. Yes, Laos, a nation often underestimated, overlooked, ignored on the international stage until now, because what Laos has quietly built in 2025 is forcing military observers, intelligence analysts, and strategic planners to rethink everything. This isn't a rumor, this isn't clickbait, this isn't exaggerated hype. What we're talking about is a real, verifiable, well-documented breakthrough, a leap in capability that doesn't just show innovation, it shows strategy, precision, and a level of military thinking that no one expected from a country with such a small budget. So stay with me until the very end, because as we break down each layer of the story, I promise you, your respect for Laos will go through the roof. And if you're new here, trust me, you're going to want to subscribe after this one, because what I am about to reveal is the kind of content that takes hours of research but gives you answers in minutes. The story begins with an idea. Laos knew it couldn't match though, China, or even major ASEAN militaries in traditional firepower. It doesn't have the budget, the manpower, or the massive industrial backbone. But what Laos did have was clarity. They knew exactly what their weakness was, and they knew exactly what kind of threat environment the future would bring. Instead of trying to compete in conventional ways, they decided to outsmart the competition, and this is where the breakthrough begins. A group of engineers, defense researchers, and foreign-trained specialists came together in a small classified facility outside Vientiane. Their mission wasn't to build something huge. It wasn't to build something expensive. It wasn't to build something symbolic. It was to build something that can shift the battlefield in a real crisis. Something inexpensive, flexible, and powerful enough to deter even the most advanced adversaries. For years, Laos quietly invested in the one thing modern militaries fear most: unpredictability. And that unpredictable new asset is exactly what analysts are now calling the Laos 2025 breakthrough. What makes it special? It's not one single weapon. It's a whole strategic concept, a combination of drones, electronic warfare tools, decentralized launcher systems, AI-guided tracking mechanisms, and low-cost autonomous platforms capable of acting independently even under signal jamming. Instead of building bigger, Laos built smarter. Instead of creating something easy to detect, they created something designed to disappear. Instead of developing systems that need high maintenance, they developed systems that are cheap enough to produce in large numbers yet smart enough to overwhelm expensive defenses. This is the nightmare scenario for major militaries, not because Laos plans to attack anyone, but because Laos has proven that even small nations can leapfrog traditional military development with the right technological choices. Now if you think I'm exaggerating, let me paint a picture. Imagine a swarm of low-cost, AI-controlled drones moving together like a school of fish, changing direction instantly, communicating silently, and carrying modules that can switch roles mid-air. One moment they're surveillance platforms, the next moment electronic jammers, and if needed, in the next moment they become precision strike units. All of this at a fraction of the cost of a traditional missile. This means one thing: the cost advantage belongs to Laos. The defense analysts reviewing this system realized something shocking. They were witnessing the exact kind of weapon that military theorists have warned about for years: a low-budget asymmetric equalizer. Suddenly, the question wasn't how powerful is Laos. The question became, if Laos can do this, who else is doing it? And how fast can this spread? This is what triggered the reaction in Washington. What the U.S. discovered wasn't just that Laos had a new weapon, it was that Laos had a new strategy. They built something that can survive in a real war environment where GPS is jammed, communication towers are chewed, satellites are disrupted, and the air defenses are overwhelmed. They built something resilient, autonomous, and intelligent. And they built it in silence. Intelligence agencies didn't even realize how advanced the system was until late 2024, when field tests began triggering tracking alerts on foreign surveillance platforms. At first, analysts thought it was a foreign contractor testing hardware. Then they thought it might be Chinese support hardware. Then they thought maybe Laos purchased a foreign prototype. But no, this was domestically assembled. And that's what made it even more shocking. Imagine a country with limited resources creating something military superpowers pay billions to defend against. Imagine a country with no more global military ambitions now holding a system that could, in the future, reshape the balance of deterrence in mainland Southeast Asia. And imagine being a analyst who has to explain to your superior that a countryman dismissed as technologically behind just became a case study in next-generation warfare. The Pentagon wasn't angry, they were impressed. They weren't say threatened, they were alarmed in the sense that global conflict dynamics are evolving faster than predicted. They realized that Laos had done something though. Military always warns about innovation from unexpected places. Now let's talk about how this weapon, or rather this system, actually works. Laos developed a tier-based swarm network. Tier 1 units handle reconnaissance. Tier 2 units specialize in electronic warfare. Tier 3 units execute precision strikes using modular payloads. Tier 4 units serve as mobile, launch anywhere platforms controlled by AI under minimal human supervision. All interconnected, all decentralized, all extremely cheap compared to traditional missile systems. And here's the part that stunned American analysts the most. You can destroy 30% of the swarm and it still completes its mission. You can jam its signals and it still reroutes internally. You can isolate individual units and they continue acting independently. This is no longer a weapon, it's an organism. Laos didn't just build drones. Laos built an ecosystem. And because of the topography of the country, mountains, forests, and rugged terrain, this system is nearly impossible to attack consistently. Laos turned its geography into a shield. The launch platforms can hide anywhere. The command units can be moved by motorcycle, truck, or even carried manually. And because the drones are small and made of low signature materials, they often blend into ground clutter or disappear into forest cover. This is the kind of warfare that superpower militaries absolutely hate because it is nearly impossible to counter without spending far more money than the attacker spent. And Laos, with its limited budget, has created a system that forces a much richer opponent to burn through expensive interceptors and the energy systems just to defend against something that costs only a fraction to deploy. This is asymmetry at its finest. Laos has essentially built a force multiplier, a system designed not to dominate, but to deny domination. And here's where the real genius comes in. These systems were created to ensure sovereignty, not for aggression, not for expansion, but as a message to the region and the world that Laos is no longer defenseless, no longer predictable, and no longer an easy target in strategic simulations. Every country wants security. Laos found it through innovation, and the world took notice. Washington's reaction wasn't fear, it was recalibration. Because if Laos can do this, other small nations can too. And that means large militaries must rethink how they prepare for conflicts in the future. It means that size no longer equals security. It means that money alone no longer builds dominance. It means that creative nations will always find a way to protect themselves. Now here's the part that will surprise you even more. Laos built this entire system at a shockingly low cost, lower than some countries spend on a single fighter jet engine. And that's why though is paying attention. Not because Laos threatens though, but because Laos just demonstrated a model for how future conflicts will be fought. Cheap, smart, autonomous, adaptive. Laos created a blueprint. And now, the Pentagon knows the game is changing. As we wrap up, I want you to think about something. For decades, people mocked small countries for having small budgets. They assumed they'd always be behind. But Laos looked at the future and realized something powerful. Sometimes the world underestimates the quiet ones. Sometimes the world overlooks the innovators who don't brag. Sometimes the biggest surprises come from the places no one expects. And with that, let me leave you with the final words that capture everything we've talked about today. The U.S. military is shocked. What they found changes everything.